Nobody expected it to end like this. Alex Eala just sent a bold message ahead of her Iga Swiatek clash, and fans can't believe what she said. 5 words buried inside a quiet press conference. That's all it took to set the tennis world talking. I'm going to try to make it tough for her as well. Not a boast, not trash talk, just calm, quiet defiance from a 21-year-old who has already beaten a 6-time Grand Slam champion once before. Now she's staring down a rematch on the one surface neither of them has ever tested the other on. And this time, the whole tennis world is watching.
He can be more and more dangerous now for you?
Well, I think first and foremost, Iga will always be a dangerous player. Secondly, that's not really for me to say. I can't tell the future, no, but I know that, and I'm sure that they are working really hard every day. You don't become, 7-time Grand Slam champion just by not working hard. So, yeah, but that's not for me to say, yeah.
Last English question just there. Thank you.
What do you like the most in being a professional tennis player?
Oh, what do I like the most? It's difficult to choose because this has been what I've wanted to do my whole life. I love competition. I love facing the pressure moments head on. I love coming out of those moments stronger than I was when I entered it. So, and I love the lessons and the people I learn being a professional. Yeah.
Great, we'll move on to Filipina.
So Alex, marami nagtatanong tungkol sa lumabas kanina para sa
To understand why this moment matters, you have to understand where Alex Eala came from and how far she's had to travel to even stand across the net from a player like Iga Swiatek. Eala is from the Philippines, not exactly a country synonymous with Grand Slam tennis. For decades, Filipino tennis had no real presence on the biggest stages of the sport. No major breakthroughs, no household names on the WTA tour, just quiet hope passed down from fan to fan, waiting for someone to change the story. Eala became that someone. Piece by piece, tournament by tournament, she built a career that felt less like a rise and more like an inevitability. And by the summer of 2026, she arrived at Wimbledon carrying something no Filipino player.
Alex Eala, she'll be really great matchup for 2 passionate fan bases. Just what do you make of her game on grass, and just what are your thoughts ahead of that in a couple days?
Well, I don't particularly know her game on grass. Obviously you can watch a little bit, but I know how she plays because we play already, and she has a tricky game. So I can assume that on grass it's even more tricky because of the surface. So for sure she's using her strengths and the change of rhythm and everything. So I will prepare, and I'll be ready. But it will be a good, challenge for me, because she doesn't give that rhythm. So I will need to be ready for different kind of shots.
Male or woman, had ever carried into the 3rd round of that tournament before. History itself. But getting there wasn't clean. It wasn't easy. On Thursday, July 2nd, Eala walked onto the court to face Maya Joint, the very player who had just eliminated 7-time Wimbledon champion Serena Williams in the 1st round. The match started as a nightmare. Joint broke Eala in the opening game and quickly built a 2-0 lead, going on to win the first set in just 35 minutes. For a lot of players, that's the moment the match slips away. The doubt creeps in, the legs get heavy, the mind starts writing the loss before it happens. But Eala didn't fold. She responded in the 2nd set with an early break, rode a 3-game surge, and leveled the match 6-2, capitalizing as Joint's consistency dipped. Then, in the decider, Eala blanked Joint entirely, closing out a 3-6, 6-2, 6-0 comeback win that would have felt improbable just an hour earlier. That win did more than send Eala into the 3rd round. It made her the first player from the Philippines, male or female, ever to reach the 3rd round of Wimbledon. Think about the weight of that sentence. An entire nation's tennis history redefined in one grass court comeback. And waiting for her on the other side of that history, the defending Wimbledon champion, the world number 3, Iga Swiatek. This is where the story stops being about one player's breakthrough and starts becoming something much bigger, because Eala and Swiatek aren't strangers. They have a past, and that past is exactly why Eala's quiet message before this match hit so hard. So what happened the first time these two collided? Why does this rivalry already carry so much tension before a single point has even been played on grass? That's where we have to go next. Every rivalry needs an origin point, a single moment where the balance of power shifts, even briefly, and the tennis world is forced to sit up and pay attention. For Eala and Swiatek, that moment came in Miami, 2025. At the time, Swiatek wasn't just a top player, she was the standard, a former world #1, a multiple Grand Slam champion, the kind of opponent who was supposed to make quick, clean work of a rising 21-year-old still building her name on tour. Instead, Eala did the unthinkable. She defeated Swiatek 6-2, 7-5 in the quarterfinals. Not a fluke scoreline, not a lucky escape, but a genuine statement-making upset. It was one of the biggest wins of Eala's career and one of the more startling results of Swiatek's season. Let that sink in for a second. A player still chasing her first deep Grand Slam run had just beaten one of the most dominant champions of her generation. And she didn't just beat her, she did it convincingly, in straight sets, on a surface where anything could have happened. For Eala, Miami wasn't just a win, it was proof. Proof that the gap between her and the very best in the world wasn't as wide as the rankings suggested. It was, by her own admission later, one of the most emotional breakthroughs of her career, a tournament that carried her all the way to the semifinals before she eventually fell to Jessica Pegula. But here's the thing about statement wins. They invite a response. And Swiatek, whatever she was feeling in the aftermath of that Miami loss, wasn't going to let it sit unanswered forever. The tennis world took notice too, because when a player ranked outside the traditional elite circle beats a 6-time Grand Slam champion, it doesn't just affect one result on one day. It changes how people watch the next meeting. It changes the stakes. Suddenly, every future match between these two carries a question mark. Was Miami a one-off, or was it the beginning of something real? That question didn't stay unanswered for long. Just a few weeks later, on the clay courts of Madrid, the two would meet again, and this time Swiatek wasn't going to let history repeat itself without a fight. What happened in that rematch didn't just even the score, it planted a tension that would carry all the way to Wimbledon more than a year later, and set the stage for the very message Eala would deliver before their grass court showdown. That's where the story escalates next. If Miami was the upset, Madrid was the response. And in tennis, responses can be just as revealing as the original shock itself. The two met again at the 2025 Madrid Open in the second round, this time on clay, a surface far more favorable to Swiatek's game than the hard courts of Miami had been. And this time, the result flipped. Swiatek came from behind to win 4-6, 6-4, 6-2, evening the head-to-head at one win apiece. On paper, that's a simple stat line, a split series, nothing dramatic. But underneath it, something else was happening. Swiatek went on from that win to reach the Madrid final, eventually falling to Coco Gauff. Eala, meanwhile, walked away from that clay court battle having proven something too, that Miami wasn't a fluke. She had taken a set off the defending Wimbledon champion. She had made her work. She had made her earn it. And that's really the story of this rivalry so far. Not one player dominating the other, but two competitors trading blows and refusing to back down. Their head-to-head record sits evenly balanced at one win apiece across two matches, with Eala actually leading in total sets won, 3-2. In terms of raw games played, Eala has even edged Swiatek overall, 25 games to 23. Numbers like that don't happen by accident. They happen when two players genuinely match up against each other, when neither one can simply overpower the other and expect an easy night. So by the time both players began circling toward a potential third meeting, tennis fans and analysts alike knew exactly what was building. This wasn't just two names randomly sharing a draw. This was unfinished business, a rivalry tied at one apiece, with a decisive rubber match waiting somewhere down the road. Nobody knew at the time that the decider would come at Wimbledon. Nobody knew it would happen on grass, a surface where, remarkably, these two had never once faced each other. And nobody knew that the build-up to that third meeting would be defined not by trash talk or controversy, but something far more compelling: quiet, controlled confidence from a player who had already proven she belonged in this fight. Because as Wimbledon 2026 approached, Eala wasn't just trying to survive the tournament. She was fighting her way toward a rematch she clearly wanted, and the path to get there would test her more than almost anyone expected. By the time Wimbledon 2026 rolled around, the pressure on Iala had shifted. She wasn't an underdog looking to make noise anymore. She was a seeded player, 29th in the draw, with expectations attached to her name for the first time in her Grand Slam career. Iala arrived at the tournament in red-hot form, having won the Birmingham Classic and reached the semifinals in Berlin during the grass court swing, pushing her grass court record to 11 wins and 3 losses on the season. For a player who hadn't even won a handful of grass matches before this year, that kind of form was staggering. Grass, somehow, unexpectedly, had become her best surface. But form doesn't guarantee comfort, and the third round wasn't going to be handed to her. Facing Maya Joint, the very player who had just ended Serena Williams' run at Wimbledon, Iala found herself down a set almost before she'd settled into the match. Joint broke her immediately, raced to an early lead, and closed out the first set in just 35 minutes. For a moment, it looked like Iala's dream run might stall right there, in the second round, against a player riding her own wave of momentum. This is where character gets tested, not in the wins that come easily, in the matches where everything is threatening to slip away. And Iala answered. She broke back immediately in the second set, surged to a 3-game lead, and leveled the match with a commanding 6-2 set. Then, in the decider, something remarkable happened. Iala didn't just win the final set, she blanked Joint completely, closing it out 6-0. A comeback like that doesn't just move you into the next round, it reveals something about who you are under pressure. And for Iala, this particular win carried extra emotional weight, because Joint had beaten her in an agonizing 3-set final in Eastbourne the year before, a loss Iala later admitted hit her so hard she couldn't watch the highlights for months. This time, she didn't just survive Maya Joint, she answered her. She rewrote that painful chapter with a resounding, emphatic response. And with that win, the door swung open to the moment fans had been circling for weeks, a third meeting with Iga Swiatek, this time with a Grand Slam quarterfinal spot on the line, and this time on a surface that had never before hosted this rivalry. The stage was set. The history was written. All that was left now were the words both players would choose before stepping onto the court, and those words would say more than either player probably intended. This is the part everyone's talking about. Not a scandal, not a scoreline, just words, carefully chosen, quietly delivered, and somehow more compelling because of how measured they were. In her press conference after the win over Joint, Eala was asked to look ahead to Swiatek, and what she said wasn't arrogant, it wasn't dismissive, but it carried an unmistakable edge of self-belief. "I think it's going to be tough for me," Eala told reporters, before adding that she planned to make it tough for her as well. Read that again. A 21-year-old facing a 6 Grand Slam champion and defending Wimbledon title holder wasn't conceding the match before it started. She was promising a fight. And given what happened in Miami, given that she has already beaten this exact opponent on the biggest kind of stage, that promise carries weight. Eala went further, noting that the surface itself changes the equation. It's a different surface than we've played at before, so I think definitely there should be some different aspects to the last time. She wasn't wrong. Grass is unpredictable. It rewards different tools, flatter strikes, quicker transitions, less time to set up. And Isla's game, by multiple accounts this season, seems tailor-made for exactly that kind of chaos. But here's what made this moment even more fascinating. Swiatek's own words seemed to acknowledge exactly what Iga was hinting at. Asked about facing Iga on grass for the first time, the defending champion didn't offer the usual confident dismissal that top seeds often reach for. Instead, Swiatek admitted plainly, "I don't particularly know her game on grass." She went on to describe Ila's game as tricky and suggested that on grass, that unpredictability might be amplified even further because of the surface itself. Think about what that really means. The defending Wimbledon champion, a 6-time Grand Slam winner, was openly acknowledging uncertainty about an opponent she has already split 2 matches against. That's not fear, but it's not the usual bulletproof confidence either. It's respect. Earned respect, built from a rivalry that has already gone back and forth once before. So when fans reacted to Ila's comments by calling them bold, what they were really responding to wasn't defiance for the sake of drama. It was the quiet certainty of a player who knows, deep down, that she belongs in this fight, and who has the scoreboard, at least partially, to back it up. 2 athletes, 2 honest, measured statements, and somehow, together, they built more tension than any manufactured controversy ever could. So here's the real question worth sitting with. Was Ala's quiet message before this match simple confidence, or was it a preview of something much bigger about to happen on center court? We'll find out soon enough. But either way, this rivalry isn't finished. It might just be getting started. If this story pulled you in, make sure you're subscribed, because this rivalry between Alex Eala and Iga Swiatek is far from over, and you won't want to miss what comes next. Drop your prediction in the comments. Does Eala's grass court run end here, or does she pull off the upset that sends shockwaves through Wimbledon all over again?